Hi everyone, and welcome back to Nordic Kitty. Today we're going to fly probably one of the more famous planes in FlightGear, which is the Space Shuttle, with a carefully modeled simulation of the autopilot and flight software, as well as wind tunnel data from NASA. This is one of the best ways to enter orbit in a flight simulator. Of course, because it uses the real flight software from back then, everything is going to be a lot more complicated than usual. Luckily, some of the creators of this plane has written a flight manual that walks you through how to operate the thing in normal situations. It's available as a free download, and I have it right here. So we're going to walk through a few things together. We're going to perform a launch from Kennedy Space Center heading east, which is pretty much one of the more basic launches. And if we have time, we'll also go ahead and do orbital insertion into a more stable orbit. So let's jump right in. Here we are in a somewhat bare representation of Pad 39A at Kennedy Space Center. Unfortunately, I haven't hunted down a custom scenery for this part yet, so unlike in Orbiter, for example, this isn't going to be very full. So here's a view manager, which will pop up when you click Control V, so you can shift V all the way back to the cockpit view if you wish. Now, of course, I can read the manual to determine the steps, but there's also checklists that walk you through most of the steps as well. So, for example, the engine controls are already powered, although I have checked the manual, and the first thing we're going to do is adjust the launch guidance a little bit. So instead of launching into a 32-degree orbit, we're going to go into a 28-degree, directly due east at 120 miles. So it's time to gradually go through the startup process. And that takes place on this panel down here. We're in a lovely morning here at Kennedy Space Center. Sun just rising. And let's start. So the first thing we need to do is the APU controllers, so that's the switches. You just roll them with either a mouse click or a wheel in order to pop them up. APU fuel valves, which are these things, the tank valves. Water spray boiler controller, this thing. No, that's this thing. And also the nitrous oxide flow. There we go. And we're going to monitor this, the APU screen right here. You can also switch the screen over to this part behind the APU. And of course, we've got 764. Oh, yeah, we need to start it. It's ready to start. This thing is not showing bar pull, so let's go ahead and start. I actually don't hear it spooling. Interesting. Although the fuel quantity is going down. So, yeah, verify RPM 5800. I guess it's there from the checklist callback. There should be a readback somewhere around, somewhere on the upper panel. However, I believe, I'm not sure about this, although I've turned those off because it kind of consumes a lot of graphics power, so we don't want to do that. So now that the RPM is proper, we can switch the hydraulic pump power to norm. Flick all these up, and now we have the APU. The guidance is armed. Now we're ready to go. Let's do some screen setup first. So of course here you have the ADI ball, also known as the nav ball if you played KSP before. It is going to show your typical primary flight display thing. Now, the Space Shuttle computer is split into an old part and a new part. We're in the new part right now that shows the nav ball. You can also go into the old path, which is the DPS. Right now, this is going to show a launch trajectory map from the old system with some new menu down here. We're going to switch these to some of the screens in the new system, such as the Flight instrument is, of course, that. We're going to go into the ohms and PS. So these are the engine instrumentation. ADPU we've just brought up, and this one we're going to go over to the flight control surface monitoring. This thing. I would have set things up normally over here, but I guess we can just leave it be or not. We'll deal with these guys too. So again, height APU and MPS. Completely mirrored, just as it should be. Right. Are we levied for launch? The key command for launch is Shift-I. It's not in the shuttle cockpit because the big red button is in mission control in real life. So, 3, 2, 1, ignition sequence starts, I suppose. Ignition, and liftoff. We are leaving the surly bonds of Earth behind. Some nice contrails even. We can actually simulate the shaking from here, although I have turned it off because it makes clicking on anything absolutely impossible. Go and throttle down, we're passing through. Max Q. Maximum aerodynamic pressure. Just going to turn off scenery download for a moment. Let's not download the whole planet. We actually have a HUD up here that we can bring up and adjust the brightness for. Go to throttle up, we're well past MECO at the moment. And the indicator is moving up together with the predictions from our current trajectory. Everything looks normal so far. Here we have the ADI ball showing us pointing somewhat away, which is completely normal. You don't have to, this ball is not as detailed as the real life one, I think. Again, we need to save some processing power. We're currently 300 knots and descending because we are climbing higher and the atmosphere is getting thinner by the minute, even while we're moving faster. We're passing like Mach 3.4, I believe. At 2.5 Gs. Passing through 100,000 feet. Go at SRB SEP. We're about to separate our SRBs. Thrust is running out on the rocket boosters. We will see SRB separation. There we go. There falls away the rockets. And we will continue on to orbit. And of course, we're in space, so lighting is going to be a bit more harsh now. There's no atmosphere to do the scattering. Sun's in our eye. We'll switch over to phase 2 of Ascent. Can turn down HUD low, I guess. Maybe not. We're now above 200,000 feet. We're well above where most aircraft are. Very soon we're going to pass over 100 kilometers. That's the Kármán line at 330 feet or something like that. 100,000 feet or something like that. Over here we have 2 countdowns towards our ascent. Here it says we have 5 minutes until we reach the end of this phase. The entire launch takes about, I think it's 9 minutes, somewhere in that thereabouts. I'm not sure about the space shuttle. Of course, this is a final countdown. At 20, main engine cut off between 25 and 26 Mach. Orbit is not about height; it's about speed. And of course, this will finally be the final countdown, and we can cut off the engines at the CO here. Right now we're at 8 Mach, so we have quite a while to go still. We're climbing slightly low, but it's fine, we can catch up, and there is room. And it says negative return. Now we're not going to go back to Kennedy Space Center, even if all the engines fail. And in fact, we have a decent chance of making it to orbit. Returning to KSC is actually one of the scariest things you can ever do, but let's not talk about that right now. It's not like we can do that now anyway. Everything's still looking fine. Of course, no sound in space. If there's no object to transmit it through. And of course, you can see the Earth below us. Now, the Earth view system, which is specifically designed for things like this, has automatically been started. And you can see that we are no longer loading the normal terrain, we're just using an image of the Earth, and it's always a cloud layer that's moving around. And the sun up there. Oh, I accidentally hit that again. Because Control V usually returns to the main view. Press to MECO, and we are at altitude 343K. Okay, Flight engine op 3109. That is about contingency scenarios if the engines fail. I have disabled the failures in this scenario, so we don't need to deal with those. Now with the altitude, we just need to preserve our height and gradually speed up. We're now at about Mach 14. Tal 104. And we're rolling over. In preparation for external tank jettison. We had to fly inverted to space, actually, in order to reduce the load on the wings. Now we're shooting slightly, and we're going to recover soon. And now we're in this direction.
Atlantis, single engine, press 104.
Okay, if I remember correctly, we will be in an orientation that looks like this throughout throughout parts of the ascent, because we need to vector things through the external tank in order to make sure that the center of mass remains somewhat okay. I'm not sure if it's just the plume that's not vectoring, or if this is not actually true. 3 engines out Tau, we can now make it all the way over to Europe or something, even if all of the engines cut out. Alright, we're at 21 Mach. We're reaching 2.9 Gs of acceleration. The Space Shuttle would have had to throttle down at this point in order to make sure we don't accelerate way too quickly. We're at 86%. Mach 24 now, we're pitching down further. Prepare for MECO. We're about done. The arrow's moving. Prepare for insertion, and there we go. We are now partially in orbit. Woo! So right now, I think our peri-apsis is still going to be below the planets just so that the external tank can burn up. Although we will change that as time goes on. External tank separation, there goes the tank. All right, we're going to adjust this slightly. And now we've started venting fuel in order to make sure that there's nothing dangerous in there anymore. We now have enough room, so let's go ahead and pitch and royale that. So we're going to go ahead and pitch down in order to see the external tank. The space shuttle uses this CSS is not talking about the web development thing. It's basically fly-by-wire. So yes, the space shuttle is fly-by-wire. Although if you do like using maneuver nodes, this is your maneuver nodes. Ops 104. This is the temporary. This is the page for doing the ozone maneuver in case we're still a bit above. Although we don't need to do that in this insertion. We also have a later version of this page which can plan your maneuvers, and we're going to use that to do our orbital insertion burn. We're going to pitch down to just below 90 degrees there, just so we can see the tank below us. And once we see the tank, we can just stop there because we're no longer on a plane. We don't care about pointing where we're going. The ball shows we're just about to head into the ground there. So that's nice. Just passing through the Eulerian singularity there. And there's the tank.
Propellant dump completed.
Propellant dump complete. Okay, we're just going to roll sideways slightly in order to see the tank in the HUD. And there we go. We've centered the tank in the HUD. Right, so now that we are safely in orbit and with the external tank in view and photographed, just in case we have a Columbia situation, oops, let's go ahead and prepare for orbital insertion. In fact, we finished propellant dump, and now we still do need to power a few things down, such as the APU that we have powered up for the flight. So we can bring up the checklist for that. Post MECO, patient nates, we know the best we can. And also, we're going to go ahead and do that. So first of all, we're going to stop the APUs. Now off. There's also injector code, we don't need to do that. APU, and turn off the APU controller. Turn off the fuel valves, which are down here, fuel tank valve. There are actually covers down here that they haven't, they kind of reach through. Turn off the boiler stuff. Oops, not that one. Turn off those and turn off the nitrogen, and also hydraulic circulation pumps. So HydCirc pump. Here we're going to switch to GPC, so the computer can control it for us. So let's switch over to our equivalent to the maneuver nodes, which is this screen. Now, I'm going to go down to the keyboard and punch in some things. There's a physical keyboard down there if you're actually flying the shuttle, but because we are not doing that, here's the keyboard. In fact, I will need to link the virtual keyboard to the computer number 1, which is what this is showing. Running on GNC. And now we're going to switch programs to Ops 105 Pro to do the OMS 2 burn, which is the orbitals, which is the circularization burn. We can read right here that currently our apoapsis is like 2123 miles, and our periapsis is 44 miles, which is quite low. So we want to raise this up by like 80 miles, which is 160 feet per second in the X direction. So we're going to do that. So we're going to change VX. So item 19 plus 160. And exec. The value is now in. And now we need to tell it when to do the burn. Ignition time, that's TIG, item 10. Unfortunately, we need to put in the ignition time manually. So, for example, we can add these two together, 25 plus 17, which is like it's like 42 minutes past. So let's do that. So we have 10, 11, 12, 4 plus 42 exec. And yeah, now we're going to do the burn at 42 minutes past. Mission has mission time. The mission time is displayed up here. And now we're going to load it. So IM22, which is load, and exec. That will put us in a 138 by 115 orbit. Let's see. Item 23, exec. So this burn will happen about 1 minute before the actual Apple access. Now let's run through a couple of more things. First of all, reading off the manual here, on panel R2, which is this, there are engine controller panel things. We are going to take down the engine controller units. So we can do that. This is post ohms 1, I suppose, because we kind of have done ohms 1. And we're going to switch the engine controller powers off. And also isolate the helium values for the engines, so that these guys. So we're going to close all that for 2 systems because redundancy is nice. Yes, that's not all. I suppose so. I don't know what to do now. Anyway, now we're going to close the door in the heat shield that the external tank would have fed through. We can't see it here, it's not in the sun. But we'll get to it eventually. So these guys are now on the bottom of that panel. Center line latches should be on stow. And now we're going to wait for that. And it's stow. Door positions to close. So we're going to close the doors that we can't see. The doors are now moving. And they're now closed. So now we can latch them. And they are now latched. So that's done. Now we just need to wait for orbital insertion. In fact, there is an orbit ADI ball available. So the usefulness of that is kind of a bit fun. And now we just need to count down for, 17 or so seconds. We're at 5 minutes before the burn. I've tweaked the burn time slightly so it still lines up with where I think it should go. And now we're going to start verifying a couple of things before we do that. So we're going to test the engine gimbals first, reading the manual here. So, and that is gimbal check, item 34. We're going to run it. And there are no error messages, so that looks good. Now, we're going to arm the engines. So that's on the quote-unquote upper left of C3. Very low, it's under this cover. So yeah, we're going to arm both, get into burn attitude, and that is switching these to auto, both pitch, roll, and yaw, and also executing item 27. And that's the burn attitude maneuver right here. Now flash is inertial, so we will need to adjust. Oh, the autopilot push button down here. So we need to switch that to auto. And now we're maneuvering to burn attitude. So I guess this is mostly for the hand, hand controller things. Yeah, so it was in inertial mode. Now it's in computer control, and we're going to pitch over to our burn attitude. With 2 minutes to go until our burn time. Hope that's done enough. We're moving. Turns out the orbit PFD is not absolutely not moving, so let's switch to this one for now, which at least gives you something useful. Alright, yeah, we're going to be late for a burn, alright? We have 30 seconds left until we're finished with this, and a burn happens in 20 seconds. It's okay, we have lots of margin here. That's why we have the margins. Now we're going to slow down with regards to that. There we go, let's run it. We're now at attitude. Very late and into a pop abscess as is. So now we're raising our periapsis. We're going to probably going to go into the apoapsis a bit more than I thought because we started to burn really late. Although we should be out of the woods soon. As I said, we're actually pitching down slightly so that the center of gravity can grow through so that the burn engines would basically go through the center of gravity, I think. This is what I mentioned earlier. Alright, we're going to clear out that illegal entry if we can. Which I apparently cannot. Right, we're now above 100 miles. A burn's coming to an end. We have 40 somethings of Delta V left. 15 seconds left. I should have monitored this one actually. And also started that one. And also started maneuvering like 5 minutes in. And there we go, we're done. 137,118. So we kind of overperformed a little bit, but we're fine. So I'm going to check very quickly that I have everything on easy mode. Yeah, this is on easy mode, guys. So we've got real navigation is actually realistic, so I should have done that. Thermal system computation is real, so things won't go ham as fast. DPS is simplified, although navigation is realistic, so I would have had to enter the weights and stuff in real life. So we're going to load up the orbit software, so that's ops 2. And that is ops 201 Pro on the keyboard. That's actually instantaneous on this, but in the real shuttle it would have had to spend some time loading. Also, there are such as the whole propellant thermal thing, because we kind of didn't care about that earlier. So now that is a selector for major function between G and C and SM, which is currently showing the antenna stuff. We would need to deal with the RCS temperature stuff in a bit, I suppose. But yeah, hopefully this is fine because we are now in orbit. And I guess we can deal with whatever this is when the time comes. So thanks for watching Dora Kitty. The sun is now setting on us, I guess. And we go ahead and do some things in orbit. And I'll see you next time. Safe flights.